Hi dear students, welcome back to your English 1 online classes, and I hope that all of you keep fine and the exams were easy for you. Today we will start a new chapter, chapter 12, the clock goes tick tock. You take page number 89. In this chapter we will see the invention of mechanical clocks, and in the first part of this story we will see an incident which took place in the life of Galileo. And you know who is Galileo. Who is Galileo? He was an Italian scientist, astronomer, physicist, mathematician, philosopher and inventor. He was a great scientist and he contributed very much to the development of humanity through his inventions. And here in this chapter, the first part of the story, we will see about Galileo and his theory behind the pendulum clock. His most famous invention was the telescope. He was the inventor of telescope, and now we will see the incident mentioned in the first part of the story. It was a wintry morning in Pisa, Italy, in the 16th century. A young student of 17 years sat motionless in the Pisa cathedral. He looked worried and unhappy and hardly glanced at the book of Psalms that lay in his hands. First, we will see some of the word meanings mentioned in this paragraph. First of all, wintry. Wintry means cold. Wintry morning, cold morning. Then cathedral. Cathedral, it is the main church of the Christians and where the leader of the Christian church lives. So cathedral is the main church of the Christians. Then glanced. Glanced means looked. Psalms is a poems or prayers that praise God, and it is mentioned in the Bible, and we can find Psalms there in the religious text of Christians Bible. So it was a wintry morning in Pisa. Pisa is a place name in Italy, and the incident, it took place in 16th century, a cold morning in the city of Pisa. And what happened there? A young student of 17 years. The age of the student is 17, and he sat motionless without any movement. He just sat inside the Pisa cathedral. So the young student of 17 years, without any movement, motionless, he sat inside the Pisa cathedral or Pisa church. Then he looked very much worried and unhappy, and we will see the reasons for his worry and unhappiness. And hardly glanced. Hardly glanced means that he was not able to read, or he was not able to look the book which he carries. And hardly glanced at the book of Psalms that lay in his hands. In his hands there is a book of Psalms, the praise and the praises to God. But he was not looking inside the book, but he looks very much worried and unhappy, and he was thinking about something else. And the next paragraph, he was in dilemma. He wanted to study mathematics, his first love. His father insisted that he study medicine. He had little interest in the subject, although he had already started studying it at University of Pisa. His father was indeed difficult to disobey. He was in dilemma. What is the meaning of dilemma? It is a situation in which the person is so much confused and worried whether to take one option or the second option. The state of confused state of mind. The boy, the young student, he was in confusion, or he was in dilemma. And what is the reason for his dilemma? He wanted to study mathematics, his first love. He was very much interested in studying mathematics, but his father insisted him to study medicine. So his love is mathematics, and he had little interest in the subject. In what subject? He was having little interest in medicine. But although he had already started studying it at the University of Pisa. So his first love was mathematics, but his father sent him to join for medicine. He was not having any interest in studying medicine, but then also because of the compulsion from father, he already started studying medicine where at the University of Pisa. And the reason is that his father was indeed difficult to disobey, and he was not able to disobey his father, so he joined to study medicine. So I hope that you understood the reason for his unhappiness and his worry, and the reason for his dilemma. And what is the reason for his unhappiness, worry and the dilemma? The reason is that his interest was to study mathematics, but his father forced him to study medicine. Then, as the lad pondered over his problems, his gaze shifted to the high ceiling of the cathedral. As the lad means the boy, and pondered means to think. As the boy was thinking over or thinking about his problems, then his gaze, his look shifted to the high ceiling of the cathedral. So the boy was thinking about his problems, and while he was thinking about his problems, suddenly his look, it shifted to the ceiling or the roof of the cathedral. And what was going on there? Some repair work was being carried out there, and a lantern swung to and fro. So when Galileo looked there at the ceiling, then he found that some repair work was going on, and he noticed one lantern swung to and fro. What is the meaning of lantern? Lantern is a lamp in a metal case with a glass side and a handle. So it is a lamp, and he found that there is a lantern which swung to and fro. Swung means it is the past tense of swing. That means it is moving backward and forward, to and fro. He found that one lantern was moving one side to other side, forward and backward. Then he began to watch it with interest as it swung in wide arcs. So he started to watch the movement of the lantern with very much interest. Why? Because it swung in wide arcs, means one side to other, the arcs. Semicircle where it was moving from one side to other side. So he started to watch the movement of the lantern with very much interest. And suddenly his eyes widened. He was totally surprised by seeing the movement of the lantern one side to another and the wide arcs. And what is the reason for his surprise? The arcs were becoming smaller and smaller, but big or small, they seemed to take the same amount of time to swing. It was strange indeed. So he noticed one strange thing. The lantern, it became smaller and smaller. And at the beginning, it was very big arc, but once at the end, it became very small. And one strange thing he noticed, that whether it is small or big arcs, it takes same amount of time to travel from one place to another. For example, this is the cathedral church and this is the ceiling, and there is a lantern there on the ceiling, and it started to move from one side to other. Maybe because of wind, it started to move from one side to another side. So the to and fro action we can notice there. First it was in the big arcs. Then what happened? It became very smaller in size. And the strange thing Galileo noticed here is that whether it is small, whether it is big arc or small arc, it takes same amount of time to travel from this end to this end. If it takes 10 seconds to travel from one end to other end for the big arc, the same way it took same time 10 seconds to travel from one end to another end there in the small arc also. So that is the strange thing Galileo found there. And what is the strange thing? He found that and the lantern is moving there in the to and fro action, backward and forward action, and it creates a wide arc. And then he found that the movement or the wide arc, whether it is smaller or the bigger in size, it takes same amount of time to travel from one end to another end. Then Galileo, for that was the lad's name. So now we understood the name of the student. His name is Galileo, and he sat up straight in the excitement and felt his pulse. Its regular beat was his best timekeeper, and he began to time the lantern's swings. So the name of the lad or the boy is Galileo, and he sat with excitement and the surprise, and he felt his pulse. And why he felt the pulse? Because it was the best timekeeper for Galileo. Then he began to time the lantern's swings with his pulse or the pulse beat, and just he counted the wide arcs and the small arcs with his pulse beat and the pulse rate. Then he was right. He found that he was right. The lantern always required the same time to complete a swing. One swing, in order to complete one swing, the lantern takes same amount of time. No matter how long range of its swing, whether it is big or small, it takes same amount of time. That was the finding of Galileo. How he found? He just checked with his best timekeeper, that is pulse beat, and he found the arcs or the swing. It takes same amount of time from one side to another end, whether it is smaller or bigger arcs. Then what Galileo did next? He did things thoroughly. He did not stop there, and he wanted to find out the truth behind it, and he wanted to prove that, and he ran home in excitement to try out his own experiment. So he wanted to conduct an experiment. He fixed one end of a string to the branch of a big tree in his garden, and he hung an iron weight from its other end. He now pulled the string back and released it. What Galileo did here, he just went home, then he fixed a string on a branch of a big tree. So this is the string, and at the end of the string he attached an iron bar. Then what he did, he just pulled the string to one side, then released. And after that, it made an arc. It started to swing. And the swing at the initial stage, it was very big. Then it became smaller in size. And then what he did, he next replaced the iron weight with a much lighter wooden one. These two took the same amount of time to swing to and fro in a regular motion. So then he changed the iron weight and placed a wooden weight, and it was lighter, means compared to the iron bar, the wooden piece, it was very lighter and it was not having the same weight. It was less weight compared to the iron bar, and the same thing he did. He pulled to one side, then released, and it slowly started to swing. It started to move from one side to another side, from backward to forward. That movement started, and what he found there, this took same amount of time to swing to and fro. So the first what we noticed, it was iron bar. Second, he replaced with a lighter object, and there also he found that both the iron weight and the wooden weight both takes same amount of time to travel from one end to another end. So from this part we can understand that Galileo noticed there at the cathedral church that one lantern was moving from one side to another side, and this lantern, it is swung in wide arcs. So he watched with very interest. Then he found that whether the arc is small or bigger, it takes same amount of time to travel from one end to another end. Then he tried and then he checked with his pulse rate, and he was very sure about that it takes same amount of time to travel from one end to another end. Then he wanted to make an experiment, so he went home and he just fixed a string on the tree, and first he attached a iron weight at the end of the string and released the string. Then he checked the time. Then later he fixed a wooden weight, a lighter object at the end of the string and released, and then he found that it takes same amount of the time to move from one end to another end. And the iron object and the wooden object both are taking same time to travel from one end to another end. So that is the finding of Galileo, and the rest of the things we will discuss in the next class. Thank you. Have a nice day.